Children and families in East Africa are facing a desperate crisis caused by prolonged drought, soaring food prices and conflict. Islamic Help visited the rundown, war-torn border town of Dobli and witnessed the strain of the drought that is being felt across central and southern Somalia. This is a last stop in Somalia for refugees fleeing across the border into Kenya. The dusty streets bear witness to a town battling to clean up the mess from fighting. Rubbish is strewn all over the dry grass. The local hospital is a scene from a war zone ridden with bullet holes. Giant marabou stork wander, waiting amid squalor to live up to its nickname, the Undertaker bird. The drought is forcing scores of refugees to flock here.
We're currently standing in a small IDP camp in Doble in Somalia, and we've got approximately 900 to 1,000 internally displaced people. And they've come from miles around. They've been walking for miles without any food, any water. And as you can see around me, there's little children, there's babies, there's elderly, there's sick people, just waiting for some form of support. It's very difficult hearing their stories about what they've had to face and the struggle they've had to go through in order to get here.
It is the elderly and the children most vulnerable, some desperately alive. The lack of rainfall for successive seasons has impacted families who are struggling to find anything to eat or drink. Crops have failed, livestock are dying from lack of pasture, and the situation looks set to get much worse. Some families are eating one meal a day at most, and the cheapest food they can find. Without nourishing food, families are vulnerable to dehydration, pneumonia and chronic disease. The human cost of this is catastrophic. Women and children have made the most incredible journeys walking southwards from Somalia in search of food and safety, often walking for weeks through the desert and braving hunger in search of aid or refugee camps.
You hear really heart-rending stories of people who had so much. Many of these mothers are telling us stories of how they've had to leave their children behind to die, of starvation. There's one woman we met in the Drought camp in Kenya, and when we first went to meet her, she did not want to talk to us, she did not want to speak to us. She was there, she was very upset, and we asked her just the once if she mind telling us her story, so that we could relay her story, a mother's story about her children, to our friends in United Kingdom. And she told us that she'd been walking for 4 months straight in order to get to the other side of the border. 4 months straight. And in that time she had 7 children, and 4 of those children ended up dying along the way. 2 of them died, 2 of them she had to leave not knowing what's happened to them. And 1 of those child was disabled. And now she'd reached this camp and she still didn't know what her future laid. But just by talking to us, she felt that somebody's listening to her story. And wallahi, she came to us afterwards and she just, her little child, he hugged me and he wouldn't let go, because he felt here's somebody who are listening and they've had no friends, they've had no one to turn to.
It's becoming a common story. All of these women speak of their arduous journey of loss and pain. Due to the lack of infrastructure in the town of Dobli, one of the initial challenges Islamic Help faced was to assess and map out the area in consultation with the village elders and chiefs. Islamic Help worked with them to ensure that the most vulnerable people and needy were targeted first. Islamic Help are responding to one of the worst food crises of the 21st century. During the month of Ramadan, over 140 tons of food was distributed. Islamic Help's convoy from Tanzania brought rice, flour, sugar, dates, oil and special peanut bars, enough food to keep families going for a month. Without your help and support, this would not be possible.
As far as we have the ability, and as far as Islamic Help donors support our organisations, we will stay here. We have no intention of going. With the sort of stories we've been hearing from mothers, from fathers, from elderly, of leaving their children behind, of people being shot, of people being forced out of their house. There's no way on earth that we can leave these people behind, because their hunger, their suffering, the poverty does not finish after Ramadan. So whether it's through donations, it's through volunteering work, through campaigning, through lobbying, please join Islamic Help.
On the front line of this crisis, any individual or family who support this appeal can literally make the difference between life and death for thousands of people over the coming weeks. Help us to reach people with life-saving food, water and medicine.